The wind howled like a beast with a broken back, dragging claws of sleet across the blackened plains. Dusk had already bled into night, and Nora McBride leaned low over her saddle, clutching the bundled child to her chest. The boy whimpered, his cries smothered by the layers of wool and desperation she had wrapped around him. Her mare, lathered and shaking, stumbled through drifts that reached to its knees. In the distance, a dim amber light flickered through the storm, a barn, half buried in snow and memory. She kicked the horse forward with what strength she had left, murmuring promises she couldn't keep. Her lips were cracked, face raw from windburn, but her eyes, those burned. She reached the barn and dismounted like a collapsing statue, clutching the child tight as she shoved the warped door open. Inside, the heat of stale air met her like a slap. Hay soaked in old whiskey, manure, and rot. And him. Cole Tanners lay crumpled against a haystack, arm dangling, bottle smashed beside him. He wore a union coat stained with time and regret, his boots kicked off, hat pulled low like he didn't want the world to find him. Nora stood over him. Dripping, swaying, teeth chattering, but her voice came steady. "Get up." He didn't move. She crouched and slapped him hard. Once. Twice. His eyes fluttered open, bloodshot, unfocused. "Nora," he slurred, blinking. "You, what in hell?" She pressed the boy into his chest. "You don't have to love me," she said, her voice soft as frost. "Just don't fail him." Cole looked down at the bundle now warming against him. The child stared up through tear-glossed eyes, face red with cold. Cole's arms stiffened, not ready, not willing. But Nora's legs buckled. She collapsed beside the hay with a thud that echoed like gunfire. Cole lurched upright, cursing, groaning like a wounded animal. He moved on instinct, tossing an old saddle blanket over her, dragging a nearby oil lamp closer. He stared at the boy, then at the woman who'd once meant something and now looked half dead on his barn floor. "Nora, what you done?" She coughed. "There's no one else, Cole." Her voice was a breath. "You're all he has." The child whimpered. Cole, unsure of how to hold him, tucked the boy in the crook of his arm like a musket. "I ain't a father," he muttered, more to the walls than to her. "You don't need to be," she said. "Just, be better than what's come before." Cole said nothing. The storm beat against the barn like a warning. That night, with Nora in fever sweat and the boy curled between old saddle rags, Cole sat by the fire he stoked from scraps and broken boards. His hand trembled as he poured the last of the whiskey into the dirt. He watched it soak into the soil like blood into a battlefield. He hadn't meant to survive the war. 12 years earlier, the Tennessee fog had clung to everything like guilt. Cole had dragged his brother's bleeding body behind a sycamore tree as gunfire cracked through the trees. Jesse had been laughing even then, coughing blood, telling stories. "Tell Nora I named the boy Elijah." She liked that name, Jesse had whispered. "I ain't tellin' her you're dead, Jesse," Cole snapped. "You're not dyin', dot." But Jesse had gone cold before the medics came. Cole never delivered the message. Couldn't. The war ended, and with it, Cole's claim to decency. He wandered west, drank to forget, fought when drunk, and drank again to forget the fighting. The world became small. A barn. A bottle. A name he couldn't say aloud. Now, that name breathed in the dark. Elijah. He woke to coughing, Nora, burning with fever. Her skin pale, her lips blistered. He found what root vegetables and dry biscuits he could. Heated snow water over flame. He fed her with trembling hands. She didn't protest. The boy began to cling to him. Not in words, not in warmth. Just in silence. When Cole walked, the boy's gaze followed. When he fed the horses, small boots shuffled after him. Days passed. Nora's color returned in shades. Her words came slowly. "You still got that scar on your side?" Cole grunted. "Got a few more now." She looked at him. Not through him, not past him, at him. "You look like Jesse." "No," he said, standing. "Jesse looked like hope." She didn't argue. That night, the boy cried from the cold. Cole lifted him into the bed of hay, tucked a wool coat around his shoulders. The child, Elijah, nestled against his chest. Cole didn't know what it meant, only that he didn't move. Didn't push him away. A week later, Nora stood under the pale dawn, wrapped in a quilt, staring at the hills beyond the barn. "You should take him to town. Let the doc see him. Let folks know we're here." Cole lit his pipe. "Town don't forget." "They don't need to forget," she said. "Just need to forgive." He blew smoke into the wind. "Forgiveness don't come easy for men like me." Nora stepped forward, placed her hand over his. "Then don't do it for you." The boy's laughter echoed through the barn as he chased a chicken, his boots too big and his coat dragging behind him like a cape. Cole watched, arms crossed, and something in his chest shifted, not cracked, not broken. Shifted. That night, by the fire, Cole spoke. His voice low. "Why now, Nora?" She looked at the flames. Because I needed you to see what's left is still worth saving. He didn't answer. Outside, the snow fell softer now. Not a storm, but a hush. A pause between past and what might come next. Inside, the fire crackled. The boy slept with one arm draped across Cole's knee. Nora, asleep in the corner, a pistol within reach, always. Cole stared at the rafters, at the dark beyond the wood. Something was coming. He felt it. Like a storm riding slow on the horizon, gathering weight. But for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. He'd made a promise without knowing it. And promises, in a land like this, were heavier than guns. He laid a hand over the boy's chest. Felt the heartbeat. One day at a time. That's how men start over. The cold softened as spring clawed its way across the Wyoming foothills, but the land remained hard. Cole moved like a man made of stone, showing Elijah how to set snares, how to feel the ground with his boots before trusting it. He spoke little, correcting the boy with a grunt or nod, guiding him with the edge of his palm rather than his voice. Elijah followed him without question, mimicking his every motion, tying knots with the same crooked fingers, blinking into the wind just the same. Nora watched from the cabin window, pale and quieter now, the sickness having scraped a layer off her that wouldn't grow back. She kept her distance. Let them grow like two wild things finding their way back to fire. One morning, while they hunted rabbits near the ridge, Cole stopped cold. A boot print, too fresh, too deep. He drew his rifle. Elijah froze, sensing the change in him like an animal reading the air. Cole scanned the tree line. Nothing but pine. The silence screamed. Then movement, just a whisper through the brush. A man emerged. Tall. Broad-shouldered. His coat was elk hide, worn and stitched with colored thread. He carried no rifle, only a hatchet strapped to his back. Lakota. The man raised one hand. Not in greeting. Not in threat. Just stillness. Elijah moved behind Cole. The man's eyes settled on the boy. Then on Cole. Slowly, he reached into his coat and pulled something small, Elijah's boot, the one he'd lost last week by the creek. He placed it on the ground and walked away, disappearing into the forest like smoke. Cole didn't move for a long while. Elijah's hand found his coat, tugged lightly. Who was that? Cole didn't answer. That night, Cole checked the rifle twice before sleeping. The woods no longer felt empty. Days passed, but the man returned, never speaking. Sometimes leaving things, a squirrel cleaned and ready. A broken fence rail fixed without word. One night, a blanket of tan deer hide sat neatly folded by the cabin door. Nora watched him through the window. He's not here to hurt us. How do you know? Cole asked. Because ghosts don't leave gifts, she said. Cole didn't trust it. Trust got men killed. But Elijah started watching the trees, waiting. The boy started mimicking the man, silent steps, crouching when hunting. One day he asked for a bow instead of a rifle. Cole relented, carving one from you and stringing it tight. The boy beamed. Weeks turned. Then came the whisper of horses down the southern trail, men riding fast and careless. News traveled from the trapper in town. Bandits moving west. Cutting through small homesteads, robbing, burning. Their leader was named Cal Hart. Cole's past returned with his name. Hart had ridden with him under Sherman's flame, one of the meanest bastards east of the Mississippi. After the war, while Cole buried Jesse, Hart turned his appetite loose on the frontier. Rumors said he led deserters and killers. He was coming this way. Nora paced the barn that night, voice sharp. We should leave. Ride north. Hide until they pass. Cole shook his head. If we run now, we'll keep running. You think you owe this place something? I owe Jesse. The name stopped her. You weren't there, Cole said. Hart left us both bleeding in the mud. He said survival was earned. That Jesse was weak. That we'd die like dogs. You think killing him fixes that? She snapped. No, Cole said. But protecting this boy might. They didn't speak again that night. The next morning, Cole found the Lakota man by the tree line, sharpening a stick into a spear. You know they're coming? Cole asked. The man nodded. Still silent. Why help? The man pointed to Elijah. Then to his own chest. He patted it once, firm. Hart. The man shook his head. Then touched Cole's chest. Then pointed at the boy again. Cole understood. Not Hart. Legacy. Coda, the man finally said. Voice deep, earthy. Name is Coda. Coda trained Elijah without speaking more than a handful of words. The boy flourished under it. His eyes lit with purpose. His hand steadied. One evening, Cole found him striking flint beside Coda, fire sparking from his fingers like magic. Elijah looked up. He says quiet is stronger than noise. Cole knelt beside him. Sometimes it is. That night, Nora came to the barn where Cole worked the saddle straps. He's different, she said. He's learning, Cole replied. No, I mean you. He looked up. The lantern's glow caught her face in soft shadow. I ain't changed, he said. Yes, you have. She stepped closer. You don't drink. You smile sometimes. You carry him when he falls asleep. Cole stood. That don't mean I'm healed. No, she said. But it means you're trying. She reached out, touched his shoulder. Not romantic. Just steady. Don't die fighting ghosts, Cole, she whispered. Live for the boy standing right in front of you. He turned away. Ghosts ain't done with me yet. Behind them, in the dark, the wind stirred again, colder this time. Cole slept with his rifle across his knees. The next morning, Coda was gone. Not a word. No trace. But the air had changed. So had Cole. The fire wasn't in his bottle anymore. It lived in the lines of Elijah's face, in the silent promise between him and the woman who once begged him not to fail. Something was coming. And this time, he'd be ready. The sky bruised purple as thunderheads gathered on the southern ridge. Cole stood in the barn doorway, rifle slung across his shoulder, watching the trees shift like a restless sea. The birds had gone quiet. Even the wind held its breath. He knew they were close. Inside, Elijah strung his bow with careful, practiced hands, fingers steady. Nora packed the saddlebags, flour, dried meat, the tin of bullets. Her movements were deliberate, mechanical, but her jaw clenched tight with every zip of the leather strap. She hadn't slept. Neither had he. They'd seen the smoke first, thin black columns rising to the south, crawling toward them like a sickness. One farm burned. Then another. Cal Hart didn't just take, he left messages. Fear was his currency. Cole had once ridden beside him. Long ago, in uniform stained with fire and mud. He remembered Hart's laughter as buildings fell. A man who killed for the sound it made. Now Hart was coming up the valley with 7 men and a taste for old debts. Coda returned just past dawn, silent as ever. He placed a circle of stones at the property's edge and scattered dried sage through the grass. He never looked at Nora. He never explained. He didn't need to. Elijah followed his every step like a shadow. Coda handed the boy a smaller knife, bone-handled, with notches down the side. Elijah looked at it like it was made of lightning. He believes in the boy, Nora said softly, standing beside Cole as the two watched from the porch. I'm starting to, Cole replied, his voice hoarse. That night, the storm broke. They came fast, no subtlety, no warning, just the sound of hooves pounding the soil and men shouting into the dark. Cole crouched behind the split-rail fence, eyes sharp. Elijah knelt behind a hay bale, bow drawn, breathing shallow. Nora waited in the barn loft with a shotgun across her lap. The old war pistol Jessie had hidden under floorboards lay at her hip. She had cleaned it twice already. The first man fell into Cole's trap, a buried spike snapped his horse's leg, sending them both crashing into mud. Cole shot once. The man didn't rise. Then the rest charged in, torches flaring. Shadows danced against the walls like devils loosed from scripture. Coda struck from the trees. A silent blur. One man screamed before silence took him. Hart rode in last, tall in the saddle, eyes glittering like a preacher drunk on judgment. He spotted Cole through the smoke and reined his horse sharply. Well, if it ain't Tanner the ghost, he shouted, grinning. Didn't think you'd stick your neck out for a woman and a bastard boy. Cole didn't rise to it. He aimed. Not gonna kill me from there, Hart barked. You want it done, come do it like a man. Cole stepped from cover. Hart dismounted, drawing 2 knives from his belt. You remember what we were, Cole? Before the shame caught up? I remember Jesse, Cole said flatly. I remember what you did to him. Hart laughed. He was weak. Got what weakness gets. Cole charged. They collided hard, knives scraping, fists swinging. Years of pain boiled between them, brothers in arms turned enemies under fire. The storm above cracked open, rain sheeting across the yard, turning dirt to blood-stained sludge. Lightning lit their silhouettes, 2 ghosts tangled in a reckoning long overdue. Hart got a blade into Cole's side. Cole didn't stop. He drove his fist into Hart's throat, then smashed his head into the barn doorframe. Hart reeled. A gunshot rang out, Nora's. One of Hart's men staggered back from the loft ladder, collapsing before he could fire. Another aimed for her, then dropped, an arrow buried in his chest. Elijah stood in the doorway, bow trembling, breath sharp and shallow, but his eyes never left the man he'd just killed. Cole saw it. A child's soul altered in an instant. Hart screamed and lunged again. Cole twisted, catching Hart's arm, spinning behind him. The knife dropped. Hart elbowed him in the gut, but Cole kicked the man's leg out and pinned him to the mud. You don't get to come back, Cole said through gritted teeth. You left us in hell. Hart spat blood. So did you. Cole drove the knife into Hart's chest. Not fast. Not slow. Enough to end it. The man shuddered once, then stilled. Rain washed the blood into the earth. It was over. Coda moved through the fallen men, checking for movement. None. Nora climbed down the ladder, boots landing with finality. She didn't speak. Just stood beside Cole, eyes hollow. Elijah dropped his bow. It hit the ground with a thud that echoed in the bones. Cole turned to him. The boy stared not at the bodies, but at his own hands. I killed him, Elijah whispered. I didn't mean to. I just... You did what you had to, Cole said, kneeling. It don't make you less. It don't make you bad. The boy's lip trembled. Does it make me like you? Cole paused. Looked at Nora. Looked at Coda. Then back to the boy. No, he said finally. It makes you better. Because you feel it. And that means it matters. They buried the bodies at the tree line, far from the house. Cole marked each with stone, not names. The dead didn't need remembering, just peace. Coda left at dawn, as silent as he'd arrived. He placed a hand on Elijah's shoulder. Said nothing. Walked into the trees and never looked back. Weeks passed. The scars healed slower than the land. Elijah spoke less but watched more. He helped Cole build a new chicken pen, fixed the roof of the barn with nails too big for his hands. Nora smiled more. It didn't reach her eyes yet, but it tried. One evening, as the sun dipped gold over the ridge, Cole saddled 2 horses. We're riding into town tomorrow, he said to Elijah. You're ready. For what? To be seen. The boy nodded slowly. Nora stepped from the porch, arms crossed. And what about you? I reckon it's time they saw me too. She smiled. You're not the same man that came crawling into that barn. No, he said. But he's the one who had to die so this one could stand. She looked at him, eyes wet with something older than tears. You did it, Cole. He shook his head. No. We did. The boy rode beside him the next day, eyes forward, hands steady on the reins. The road stretched long ahead, but not empty. They didn't look back. Some ghosts stay buried. Others ride with you. What matters is what you carry, and who you carry it for. If this story stirred something in you, if you felt the weight of legacy, of what it means to choose family over fate, then hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that dig deeper than bullets and blood. Leave a comment below, what would you carry forward? Because out here, what we carry is who we are.